I need answers. Who is your mystery designer?
Was this really just a split-second mistake? Or was it something much darker that's been brewing under the surface of Sarah Platt for decades? You have to ask yourself, how does a woman who started as the sweet, gym-slit mom of Weatherfield end up standing over a lifeless body with a metal pole in her hand? The recent reveal that Sarah is the one who finished off Theo Silverton didn't just shock the viewers. It completely shattered our understanding of who Sarah is in 2026. For months, we were all playing Cluedo, looking at the usual suspects like Gary Windass or even Todd himself, but the truth is far more unsettling. The writers didn't just give us a killer, they gave us a psychological breakdown caught on camera. Well, think about it. The way the truth came out was almost as brutal as the act itself. We saw those jagged, visceral flashbacks triggered by something as simple as a cut on Sarah's hand. The funny thing is, the mind has a way of burying trauma until it physically can't hold it anymore. When Sarah looked at that broken glass, she wasn't just seeing red, she was seeing April 23rd all over again. She was back on that scaffolding, facing down a man who had systematically dismantled the life of her friend and former lover, Todd. But here's the real question. Did she strike Theo to save Todd, or was she finally hitting back at every man who has ever tried to control her? In my opinion, Sarah wasn't just hitting Theo in that moment. She was hitting Callum Logan. She was hitting every ghost that has haunted the Platt household for years. When she swung that metal pole, it was a release of pressure from a woman who has been forced into the role of a victim far too many times. You could see the raw desperation in her eyes during that flashback. It wasn't premeditated, and Tina O'Brien plays that beautifully. It was a situation where Sarah felt she had no other choice, a cornered animal finally biting back. But the tragedy isn't just the death, it's what Sarah did next. Instead of calling the police, she called Gary. Why Gary? Because Gary Windass is the patron saint of covered-up corpses in Weatherfield. By reaching out to him, Sarah didn't just seek help. She entered into a dark pact that she can never truly leave. Gary, with his own history of violence and secrets, was the only person who wouldn't judge her because he's already standing in the shadows with her. Their dynamic has shifted from a complicated romance to a mutual survival agreement. It's fascinating and frankly a bit terrifying to see how easily they slipped back into that mode of deception. The psychological weight of this secret has been eating Sarah alive, and we saw the climax of that internal war when she finally broke down in front of Todd. But let's look at the way Todd got that confession out of her. He didn't just ask, he weaponized her grief. He made her swear on the life of her late son, Billy. Now, that is a level of emotional manipulation that borders on the cruel. Todd knew that was the only thing Sarah wouldn't lie about. It shows just how desperate Todd was for the truth, but it also shows the absolute lack of trust that now exists between these two legends. When Sarah confessed, you could see the exact moment her soul seemed to leave her body. She's terrified of prison, sure, but I think she's more terrified of herself. She's realized that she is capable of the unthinkable. This isn't just about a murder anymore, it's about the identity of Sarah Platt. Is she still the person we've rooted for since 1987, or has she become another casualty of the Platt curse? The irony here is thick enough to choke on. Sarah was the one who was traumatized by Callum's death, yet here she is, repeating the cycle with Theo. You have to wonder if Sarah's mental health is going to be the next big chapter in the story. We remember her struggle with postpartum psychosis, and this kind of trauma is the perfect trigger for a relapse. The show is painting a picture of a woman who is fundamentally broken, trying to glue the pieces together while holding a smoking gun, or in this case, a bloody scaffolding pole. It makes me wonder, is there any path back to normal for her? Or is she destined to be the next Richard Hillman of the family, just with better hair and a more sympathetic backstory? The fallout is only just beginning, and the tension is escalating to a breaking point. Gary is on the verge of telling Maria everything because he can't stand the lie anymore, while Sarah is bracing for the impact of a life behind bars. Tina O'Brien has even hinted that prison is a very real possibility this time. And why shouldn't it be? If she had called the police immediately, she might have had a claim of self-defense or a momentary loss of control. But by covering it up, by actively hiding the truth for weeks, she's crossed a legal and moral line that usually leads straight to a jail cell. But then we have the Kit factor. Kit Green is the wild card in this entire deck. He was ready to propose to Sarah, completely unaware that the woman he loves is a killer. If he finds out, does he uphold the law he's sworn to protect, or does he become the next man to help Sarah bury a secret? Some fans think he might actually use his position to clear her name, which would be the ultimate corruption of justice. It would mean Todd gets no real closure for the abuse he suffered at Theo's hands, because the legal system would be bypassed to save a Platt. And speaking of Todd, how does he live with this information? He's floored, he's devastated, but he's also a man who has done some pretty questionable things in his time. Will he protect Sarah out of some lingering love? Or will his moral compass finally point north? The psychological layers here are so dense. You have a victim of abuse, Todd, finding out his protector is a murderer. It's a messy, gray area that Coronation Street excels at exploring. There are no heroes here, only survivors and the people they've stepped over to stay alive. What about the theory that someone else finished Theo off? I know some of you are thinking it. It feels a bit like a get-out-of-jail-free card for the writers, doesn't it? If Theo was still breathing when Sarah ran for help and someone else delivered the final blow, it would save Sarah from being a true killer. But would it really change anything? She still swung the pole. She still intended to hurt him. The intent is there even if the final result was finished by another hand. Personally, I think it's more compelling if she is the killer. It forces us to reconcile the Sarah we love with the Sarah who can kill. The escalation of this plot is brilliant because it forces every character involved to face their worst impulses. Gary has to face his need to be a savior. Sarah has to face her capacity for violence. Todd has to face the reality of who his friends really are. And Kit has to face the fact that his perfect life is built on a foundation of lies. It's a house of cards, and the wind is starting to pick up. The question isn't if it falls, but who gets crushed when it does. Prediction time. I don't think Sarah goes to prison for long, if at all. This is Coronation Street, and the Platts have a supernatural ability to avoid consequences. However, I do think we're going to see Gary Windass make the ultimate sacrifice. He's already expressed that he's prepared to go far for her. If he takes the rap, it would be his way of atoning for Rick Nalon and everyone else he's hurt. It would be a poetic, if tragic, end to his current arc. But would Sarah let him? Could she live with herself knowing Gary is rotting in a cell for her crime? The funny thing is, the audience's reaction has been just as split as the characters. Some people are shouting justice for Theo, while others are saying he got exactly what he deserved. Theo was a monster. There's no denying that. His campaign of terror against Todd, his involvement in Billy Mayhew's death, he wasn't exactly a saint. But does that give Sarah the right to be judge, jury, and executioner? This is the core of the debate. It's the classic vigilante justice trope set in the most mundane of locations, a construction site in Weatherfield. I think the writers are making a bold statement about trauma. Sarah hasn't had a normal life since she was 12. From teenage pregnancy to internet grooming to being held hostage by Callum, her life has been one long series of survival tests. Eventually, you stop being a survivor and you start becoming a warrior, and warriors leave bodies behind. This storyline is the natural, albeit dark, conclusion of 30 years of character development. It's the moment Sarah Platt stopped being a girl and became a legend. Even if it's a legend with a very dark shadow, as we look toward the future, the drama is only going to intensify. We have Megan's trial looming, we have Sarah searching for more answers, and we have the constant threat of the truth leaking out to the rest of the street. Can you imagine Gail's reaction? Her daughter, a murderer. It would be the final blow to a woman who has spent her whole life trying to keep her family's reputation intact. The fallout will ripple through every house on the cobbles, changing the landscape of the show forever. So, I have to ask you, do you think Sarah is actually a killer in her heart, or was this a tragic accident born of trauma? And do you think Gary Windass should take the blame to save her? This is a debate that's going to rage on for weeks, and I want to hear your side of it. Are you Team Sarah, or do you think justice needs to be served, No matter the cost to the Platt family, the psychological complexity of this reveal is what makes modern soaps so engaging. It's not just about who did it anymore. It's about what does it do to them. Sarah's confession to Todd was a masterclass in emotional storytelling, but it was also a warning. The secret is out of the bottle now, and once a secret like that starts moving, it doesn't stop until it hits something. Or someone. Before we wrap this up, let's talk about the acting one more time. Tina O'Brien and Mikey North have this incredible shorthand on screen. They make you believe in this twisted, dark bond they share. You almost want them to get away with it, don't you? That's the sign of great writing and acting, when you're rooting for the bad guys because you understand their why. But in the world of Coronation Street, the bill always comes due eventually. What do you think is the biggest twist still to come? Is there another witness we don't know about? Could Jody's alibi deal actually work? Or is it just another layer of deception that will eventually collapse? The theories are wild, but the reality is usually even more shocking. Make sure you stay tuned as we follow every beat of this killer storyline. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the dark heart of Sarah Platt, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We're covering every twist and turn on the cobbles, and you won't want to miss our next theory video. Drop a comment below with your predictions. I read every single one of them. Is Sarah going to prison? Or is Gary going to be the hero once again? Let's get the debate started. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one for more Coronation Street analysis. Now, let's take a step back and look at the broader implications for the show. If Sarah stays out of prison, it sets a precedent that the big characters are untouchable. But if she goes, the show loses one of its most central figures. It's a massive gamble for the producers. They've essentially backed themselves into a corner. Either they deliver justice and lose a star, or they keep the star and lose their narrative credibility. It's a fascinating tightrope walk, and I'm here for every second of it. Think about the impact on Sarah's children, too. Bethany and Harry. How do you explain to your kids that their mother killed a man? The cycle of trauma in the Platt family isn't just continuing, it's accelerating. It makes me wonder what kind of people Harry and Max will grow up to be with this kind of legacy hanging over them. It's Shakespearean, honestly. A tragedy played out in a terraced house in Manchester. The psychological layer here is all about control. Theo controlled Todd through abuse. Sarah took back control through violence. Gary controls the situation through deception. Everyone is trying to grab the steering wheel of a car that's already flying off a cliff. It's exhausting to watch, but you can't look away. That is the power of high-stakes soap drama. In conclusion, Sarah's confession isn't the end of the story. It's the beginning of a much darker chapter. The legend may be flawed, but she's not out yet. Sarah Platt is a fighter, and if there's one thing we know about fighters, it's that they're most dangerous when they're backed into a corner. The question is, who else is going to get hit before this is all over? Remember to like this video if you're as obsessed with this plot as I am. It really helps the channel out and keeps these deep dive commentaries coming. And seriously, let me know your thoughts on this someone else finished him off theory. Is it a brilliant twist or a lazy cop-out? I'm leaning toward the latter, but I'd love to be proven wrong. The drama on Coronation Street has never been more intense, and with Sarah now officially a member of the Killers Club, the stakes have never been higher. Will she find redemption? Or is this the start of a downward spiral that leads to her ultimate exit from the street? Only time will tell, but you can bet we'll be here to analyze every single moment. One last thought before I go. Watch Kit. His reaction to all of this is going to be the most important part of the next few months. A cop in love with a killer is a classic noir setup, and I can't wait to see how they play it in a soap setting. It's going to be explosive, and I'll be right here to break it all down for you. Don't forget to check out our other videos on the latest spoilers and character exits. There is so much happening in 2026, and we are your #1 source for all things Weatherfield. Thanks again for joining me, and I'll see you very soon for the next update. Stay safe, stay curious, and keep watching the cobbles. Wait, I just thought of one more thing. What if the person who finished him off was actually Todd? Can you imagine that twist? He finds Theo, realizes he's still alive, and decides to end the abuse once and for all. It would explain why he was so desperate for Sarah's confession. He wanted to see if she'd take the blame for the whole thing. Now that would be a Coronation Street legend move. But maybe that's too dark, even for 2026. Or is it? The beauty of this show is that anything is possible. We've seen ghosts, we've seen serial killers, and we've seen some of the most heart-wrenching drama on television. This Sarah Platt storyline is right up there with the best of them. It challenges us to think about morality, friendship, and the lengths we'll go to protect the people we love. It's messy, it's complicated, and it's exactly why we keep coming back night after night. Actually, let's dive deeper into the Sarah and Gary connection. Some fans have pointed out that Gary is almost like a drug for Sarah. Whenever her life gets too difficult, she turns to him to fix it. But his fixes always come with a price. He's not a hero, he's an enabler. He's enabling her worst instincts because it keeps her tied to him. It's a toxic, codependent relationship that is fascinating to dissect. Sarah thinks she's using him, but really, they're both just drowning together. And what about David? He's been surprisingly quiet in all of this. David Platt is the king of secrets and cover-ups. When he finds out, and he will find out, how does he react? Does he respect his sister for finally joining the dark side? Or is he terrified that she's going to bring the whole family down this time? The sibling dynamic between Sarah and David is one of the pillars of the show, and this is going to test it like never before. I also want to touch on the theme of justice. In Weatherfield, justice is a very flexible concept. Sometimes the bad guys go to jail, sometimes they fall into a sinkhole, and sometimes they just move to Milton Keynes. Will Theo's death ever truly be solved in a legal sense? Or will it just become another piece of street lore? A ghost story that the residents tell each other over a pint at the Rovers? The emotional insight here is that Sarah is grieving a life she'll never have now. She wanted a future with Kit. She wanted to be normal. But her confession to Todd was her admitting that she doesn't deserve that life. It was an act of self-sabotage as much as it was an act of honesty. She's punishing herself before the law even gets a chance to. That is the real tragedy of Sarah Platt, S.O. As we close this chapter of our analysis, keep an eye on the small details. The writers are dropping hints everywhere. From the way Sarah holds her tea to the way Gary looks at the police station, nothing is accidental. Every frame is a piece of the puzzle. And we're going to put it all together, piece by piece. Point one more time for the people in the back. Subscribe, like, and comment. It really is the best way to support the channel and ensure we can keep making these deep dive scripts for you. I love this community, and I love the passion you all bring to the Coronation Street discussion. Let's keep it going. What's the most Platt thing Sarah could do next? My money is on her trying to frame someone else, only to have it blow up in her face. It's the family tradition. But whatever she does, you can be sure it won't be boring. The Coronation Street is firing on all cylinders right now, and Sarah Platt is the engine driving the whole thing. Final question. If you were Todd, would you go to the police? Or would you stay silent to protect the woman you once loved? It's the ultimate moral test. Let me know what you do in the comments below. See you in the next video, where we'll be discussing the fallout from Megan's trial and what it means for the rest of the street. Don't go anywhere. Actually, let's keep going for a moment. I can't get over the Billy swear. That is just so monumental for Sarah's character. Billy was her son, who died just hours after he was born. He is the most sacred thing in her life. For Todd to use him as a tool for interrogation shows a side of Todd that is colder than we've seen in a long time. It shows that he's not just floored, he's transformed. He's no longer the victim, he's the inquisitor. This transformation of Todd is just as interesting as Sarah's. He spent months being terrorized by Theo, and now he's the one holding all the power. He has Sarah's life in his hands. What he does with that power will define his character for the next decade. Does he become a protector? Or does he become a blackmailer? Or does he simply walk away and let the chips fall where they may? The complexity here is just staggering. You have layers of history, layers of trauma, and layers of shifting loyalties. It's why Coronation Street has lasted for over 60 years. It knows that the most interesting stories aren't about good versus evil, but about the messy, complicated people in the middle. Sarah Platt is the embodiment of that complexity. So, stay tuned, stay vocal, and keep analyzing. The cobbles are full of secrets, and we're going to uncover every single one of them. Thanks for being part of the journey. I'll see you in the next one, and one last thing. I promise this is the final one. Watch the scaffolding. In literature and film, scaffolding often represents something that is under construction or unfinished. I think that's a perfect metaphor for Sarah. She's a character who is constantly being rebuilt, only for the structure to collapse again. The fact that the murder happened on scaffolding is a brilliant piece of visual storytelling. It tells us that Sarah's transformation into whatever she's becoming is still very much a work in progress.